Hey, good morning. Lats in line. Thanks for following us again. Thanks for coming into another episode of what I believe is some really impactful greatness with one of our greater leaders in the community. We have Desmond Jones today. He's done a lot of good things when it comes athletically. He started out a new business. He's an entrepreneur. He's a family guy. But I want to let him go into more of his background real quick and want to dive into Getting Out of Our Way, which is episode number 2, I believe, for this month. So it's going to be impactful. But let me turn it over to Desmond and let him talk about himself for a minute.
Thanks. Appreciate it, John. How you doing this morning?
Doing awesome.
Like I said, my name's Desmond Jones. I'm from Conroe, Texas. I graduated in 2010. Like you said, I have a background in athletics, so a lot of people around here would know me best from sports. I ran track. I played football. I went on to Sam Houston on a track and field scholarship. From there, I ended up getting my personal training certification and pursued a different walk of life as far as that went. Wasn't really sure about my career at first, and then kind of found what I was more passionate about and decided that I wanted to give back to my community and be something for the kids that I didn't have whenever I was here. So that's when we opened up our gym, Next Up Athletics, where we do sports performance and weight management. So we just train the community and giving out healthy tips and fitness. And then that's kind of what we were about, what we stand for. It's just our way to give back the best way that we know how.
Okay. All right. And so I'll give a background. So how Desmond and I got to know each other was through our church, and he serves and volunteers with the youth. And my oldest son actually had, I believe Desmond was one of the counselors at one of our retreats. And I remember when he came back, my son was just in awe of some of the athleticism and the ability, because they played a lot of games, and Desmond was right there in the midst of it and leading by example, which, you know, falls right in line with what we're trying to accomplish here at Last in Line. He made it about other people. And he shared his experiences and kind of showed that example of walking a faith. We can walk a faith-filled life and still be successful, still have a good time, and still impact people. So I think he's a perfect person to have for this. And today, like I said, episode number 2 of Get Out of Your Way. And if you've been watching any of our sessions, you know that each month we have a theme. And last month was controlling our aim. This month is Getting Out of Our Way. So all of it's intended to line ourselves up with what God says about us and what our destiny could be, and kind of look through the lens of what he sees our purpose to be. So with that, Desmond, we're going to get right into this and dig in a little bit. So what we call this is the ABCs of Getting Out of Our Way. And the first one's our approach. And so we go, and I'll set the stage a little bit on each one of these topics, and then I'm going to kind of turn it over and let you go and run. You're good at running, so I'm going to let you run. I don't think Desmond did well enough job of propping himself up on some of his accomplishments, but he's one of the most well-known for his time period in track in the state of Texas. So that's a huge thing, and he didn't give it enough credit. But, hey, as far as our approach goes, I always go back to controlling our input and the internal and deflecting some of the external.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna control internally what we can control, and then deflect what's around us. Talk a little bit about attitude and effort and some of the input and some of the external we have to deal with.
Man, that's huge, honestly, in so many different aspects of life. You know, I often tell my athletes the serenity prayer. You know, God grants me serenity to control the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that's a prime example of controlling the internal versus the external, because you have so many elements and so many things that play on you daily that affect your mood, you may drain your body, you're physically tired, you're mentally exhausted. And the only way that you're going to be able to push through and give 100% at whatever your goals are that, you know, for that 24-hour period, is to really control what you put in, and not at the time of, but prior to, you know. I tell people that, you know, we're either going through a storm, or we're in a storm, or we just got over a storm. So I think the things that prepare me before I get to my storm is what gets me through my storm. Just kind of hanging around the right crowd. If you check my phone, I got a couple different group messages, and all my group messages are from people who are going to empower me, who are going to strengthen me. My people that I would see are closest to me, that care about me in a way that, they want to see me succeed at all costs, whether it helps them or hurts them, they still have succeed. And I think having those people around you it does so much for you as a person and as a whole every single day, just to kind of have that encouragement behind you. It keeps that's how you keep your attitude good, I think, personally.
Absolutely. I mean, iron sharpens iron. We know that. And that's a perfect conversation we're going to have toward the end of this when we talk about accountability. And, with what we have, information overload right now, and each generation is going to have to deal with it more and more. But, currently we have plenty of external things that we have to deflect. And I think you hit a huge point of doing it ahead of time. So we've got to kind of prepare our fields before we actually have some storms come in our life. And I've heard people say, I get scripture in me when I don't need it so that it's there when I do. And I would say you always need it, but that's just, that's an illustration of, don't wait till you're neck deep in a problem or a situation to really reach out for God. I think it's important to be close to him at all times, because then you have the peace and the strength to withstand what comes at you. There's plenty of stuff coming at us. So how do we regulate our input? There's so much coming at us. What do you do practically? Give me a couple things, because there's people listening that are looking at their phone right now, and they're being compared to other people internally. They're making those comparisons. What would you say to them?
Honestly, you got to control your energy, what you put out into the world, what you put out every single day. You can get out on the wrong side of the bed, and you could take that mindset and let it carry you throughout the day. And I guarantee you're going to give less than 100% all day. The more the day goes on, the less you're going to give. And that's just all about controlling your energy, keeping your mindset in the right direction towards your goals or whatever it is that you're trying to do that day. It's just, what movie is that? It's one of my favorite movies. Remember the Titans. Yep. He's like, you doing your job? He's like, yeah, you the captain? Yes. Yep. Do your job. And he was like, that's the worst attitude I ever heard, man. Attitude reflects leadership. And I think that's 100% true, because your attitude and your output into the world, like I said, is what you're going to give back. If you go to Starbucks and order something that Batista has an attitude, you know what I mean? Then you're going to automatically sense that. And then your demeanor is going to change based off someone else. And that's what I mean by control your energy. You can't allow someone else's negativity or someone else's positivity to 100%, change or influence how you feel in your daily life. So controlling your energy just means if they're having a bad day, they're having a bad day. And I'm going to come and I'm going to smile and I'm going to be authentically myself the entire time, in order to either give some energy off. But the last thing I'm going to do is allow you to, put that on me. And I think that does a huge job of just regulating our output and how much we actually give to the world daily.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's perfect, man. I'm going to speak for you. I'm going to make an assumption because I'm sure everybody deals with this, because I know we haven't always had this right? Yeah. We haven't done this perfectly. We've got situations in our life where we had to learn from lessons that so do you have maybe a situation where you can give an example that, man, you maybe, you weren't as good at limiting distractions as you could have been, or maybe during your athletic environment, it affected your performance because you were too worried about some distraction or whatever. Give me just like a little example of that.
Absolutely. Man, I could take you straight to college for that one. A lot of my friends know that I was a two-sport athlete, so we expected that to transfer on to the next level. I know it's difficult, but I kind of believe that I had the ability to do two sports. And as I got there, went through my freshman year of college doing track for the first year. That was my first year to kind of go full track, and that was different. That was different on me in a lot of different ways, mentally, physically. It was just a lot that I wasn't prepared for. Also, track practice and football practice were at the exact same time. So every day as I'm being tortured on the track, I have to watch this sport that I love, and even though I'm here at the track and you're an adult at the time, you're a young adult, but your mind's kind of, you're kind of in and out of maturity and understanding. But at the same time, I'm kind of still a kid. So I want what I want. And I really feel like that during my time in my years as track, I really couldn't put my full energy, or I couldn't actually tap into that untapped potential that, was there for me because of my love and my distraction for football. So it was really hard for me to focus on one while wanting to do the other. And I say that to say that I could have, continued to do what I was doing in track every single day, the way that I was supposed to do it, in which I would have rolled over later on when the time came. I would have had my opportunity. But because of the distraction of seeing both, and then, going back to the dorms and trying to juggle school, juggle time management, doing all the right things, it really took away from what I was at the school to do. And I think, now that I'm older and more mature, I could say that, there was a huge distraction there between the two because of the love relationship there. But at the same time, it took away from what I was at the school solely to do. So that's one of those situations for me that I feel like that outside, and that's something that was coming from internal, that like no one knew that I was going through this because it was inside and it was something that I was battling with. So just kind of being able to, like I said, to control, if I was able to control more of my energy at the time, it was just draining me to see the thing that I loved and the thing that I was doing. So I think that's one of those situations for me.
And I'm totally, everybody kind of has their own brand of what that looks like in their journey. And I think everybody deals with that to some extent every day, regardless of being a young adult, excuse me, or a more experienced adult. I think we all fall into the temptation of either a discontentment or a comparison, or maybe we want something that, maybe our situation right now isn't what we thought. And so, I want that. And so I think we can all be distracted. But I think it's important, and as an athlete, it's important to get back to your base, to your center, to what matters, your priorities, to that stability and balance.
Absolutely.
So, or we can kind of get off course. And I like that. That's a great example, because there's people listening that may be in that transition of having to make a decision, having to make a choice. I've always been good at both of these. I may have to pick one. And if I do that, obviously we're going to let God make that help direct us. But we got to be able to let something go too, in order to get something. So I think sometimes we try to hold on to things that really we aren't meant to hold on to.
Absolutely.
But I like, go ahead. No, go.
I was just telling you, you saying comparison, but one of my best friends, we ran on that state 4x4 team in high school together. Well, it's kind of both of us are going to the same school to essentially do the same thing, but he went football first and I went track first. So like that comparison, our dorms are like four doors down. So I spent most of my time with him learning football instead of, maybe doing a little extra ab that I could have been doing or preparing my day a little bit better. But either way, it was huge to kind of watch him do the thing that we, people got to realize that we were like 11, 10 years old when we decided, hey, I want to spend all of my time getting better to play this sport, and then to not actually do it. Yeah, it was difficult. But, like we said, it's one of those things that kind of come within. You got to kind of learn. You got to learn as you go, and learn a little bit more about yourself during those times, honestly. Even though it was like one of those times that's kind of really, one of those times I think I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. But at the same time, I don't think I would change it because I wouldn't have been able to grow without it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good transition, because I'm sure, so when we transition into barriers, so we've got the ABCs, right? We talk about approach. The second one will be barriers. And I think we could go into hours of discussion about what barriers are out there, and we're trying to eliminate those, but we've got to address them first. And Absolutely. So I would say part of all men, for sure, I would say people in general, but, fear and insecurity and pride are the three that stand out to me, because those are probably the three that magnified in my situation, my experiences. Pride has always been, I could trace back a lot of my mistakes to pride, and a lot of my shortcomings probably to insecurities and fear. So as an athlete, I'm guessing you may have battled a little bit of some of these. Talk to me about how fear, talk to me about how fear maybe kind of got in the way, and maybe a little bit of insecurity got in the way. But obviously you overcame because you're a high level athlete. But talk to these folks about how you overcame some of that, because it is possible. Like, there's people listening who think it's a hopeless situation. It's not.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think I was saying this yesterday. All teenagers are insecure. You know, you really can't go through junior high and high school without it, and especially making it to the next level where, you know, you're going. And I think of some of the stadiums we ran in, you know, there's, you know, 10, 15,000 people, you know, just kind of shouting at 18, 19-year-olds, you know, and it's kind of one of those things that you kind of learn, like you learn to kind of get over it because of the stage, which I'm grateful for. You know, I think of so many, you know, a lot of times people ask me, you know, questions about myself. How would you describe yourself? Who are you? And honestly, I always reply with, I'm an athlete, you know, just straight, like that's my personality is athletic. I'm an athlete. I think like an athlete. So when I see a challenge, my first mind, like the first mind tells me that I can overcome it. You know, when I see an obstacle in front of me, I want to overcome it. And I think the years of being an athlete, it helped me so much with that. Just kind of either having a team around you or having that time to self-reflect. And that's what I do the most. You know, I like to evaluate myself. I don't want to think that I'm here and then, you know, get knocked down a few pegs, because, you know, that hurts. It does. Yeah. Here's my pride. This is where it's at. So getting knocked down, you know, you're going to feel that. And so I like to self-evaluate a lot. And that helps with my insecurities, because it's not me saying what I can't do or what I don't do well. It's actually me seeing what I need to work on and understanding what my strengths are. And I can, you know, build on my strengths and then also work on my weaknesses. So that's how I personally get over my insecurities, just like I would train. If I need more weight on me, obviously I'd get in that process. You know, hey, I'm small, but I'm fast. I'm smart, but I don't have good technique, you know. So I would attack it like an athlete. You know, if I'm fast, I'm going to work on my speed and stay loose, but also I need to build muscle, which means I'm going to have to increase my load and progressively go up as I go. If I'm fast and I don't have technique, okay, well, now I have to take away from my speed a little bit, and I have to, you know, slowly break down those steps until I kind of understand what I'm doing more, and then I'll attack it. And that's how I attack everything, especially my insecurities. I see what I need to work on. I understand if I can change it overnight or if it's going to take a little bit of time, and then I just attack it in one day at a time from that point.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, totally agree. And because insecurities are really just a symptom of opportunity for growth. Absolutely. You know, those opportunities are pure, they're true, but how we deal with them manifests sometimes in insecurity and disqualifying ourselves, and just allowing those maybe imperfections to kind of control us. Hey, you know, in this topic, and that was great segue to this, because you talk about maybe strengths and weaknesses, and the world has taught us to not like that word, right? Weaknesses. Right. Oh no, because we're in a world of everybody gets a trophy, right? So nobody wants to hear that they have a weakness. We're gonna go real talk today, because we're talking to grown-ups, hopefully, and mature people, and so we all have weaknesses. So I came up with this little phrase: drive versus dread. So what drives us and what do we dread to do? And I, in my opinion, think drive is attached to strength. Yeah. We're driven toward the things that we're good at. Absolutely. Our dread happens when we have to do something that we know we're not good at, that we dread and fear. I think fear, you know, obviously drives that dread. So talk to me about drive versus dread. You know, you talked about your strengths and weaknesses and what you do to get better at some of those, but to people that are out there and they're like, man, I don't want to, because I mean, I've had days where I get up and, man, I know what's coming that day, and I know what I got to do, and I'm not looking forward to it. And chances are it's things that I feel like I'm not great at, or it's just a lazy factor. I don't know. So talk to me how to get people over that hump of dreading something.
Man, drive versus dread. So drive to me is simply put understanding your why, understanding why you do whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's financial, whether it's spiritual, whether it's for your family. You know, for me, my drive just comes from my family and my friends. Just having the people in my life that are closest to me, just having them around and constantly just kind of shooting out nothing but belief, like, hey, Des, I know you can do it. If anybody can do it, it's you, you know what I'm saying? Or, you just keep going. I've seen you do great things in the past. I can't see you stop, stuff like that. And then that's where my drive comes from, because, I know that I don't want to let them down, but at the same time, I understand that I can't, whether
absolutely.
I'm good or whether I'm bad, I know they're going to be right there by my side. And that makes a huge difference. And that's where my drive comes from. I just think about the people who are closest to me, the people I care about the most. And I think about the things that I want to do for them one day. And I just keep pushing. Dread is easily just whatever's outside the comfort zone. Man, I think everything that's outside your comfort zone is dread. It doesn't matter. From the first day I decided, hey, I want to do something. I want to give back. And I said that I want to be a personal trainer. You go through the process, you get your trainer certification, you do all of the work for it. And then, you're cast out there, hey, go get a job. You go out, you get a job, and then they're like, okay, you got clients coming for the first time. And automatically, even though I've done all this work, all this studying, all this time, your first client coming, and then like it snaps and you're just like, man, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I adequate enough? Am I going to make, make these things happen for this person? And then, years go by. And even though, I was training for a couple of years at a gym, and then I went off on my own to kind of start the business up about 3-4 years ago. And, God, dread really hit me then, because it's like, what do I know about starting a business? I don't have any like prior experiences like that. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, and like automatically the insecurity starts pouring in, because now I'm asking myself, am I qualified? Are people going to take me seriously? Am I going to be respected in what I'm doing? And just automatically all these negative thoughts of, if I'm good enough, basically just kept hitting me. And then you think about it and you're like, dang, like, it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to think, am I good enough to be doing it? And am I qualified? And you're constantly thinking about all the outside interferences that are in front of you that's like keeping you from getting to your plan. And I tell my young guys, and I tell my clients, hey, if you got a plan, execute it. I don't care what the plan is. If the plan is to, I don't know, change a bicycle tire, execute it. You know what I mean? Take your time, prep, see what you're supposed to do, break it down, and then attack it. One step at a time. Whatever it is your plan was, stick to it. And I think just executing your plan does a lot with just getting over that dread of, of actually moving forward. Just the execution process. And it's not necessarily that everything goes right away. It's just the fact that you're constantly moving forward, doing one task after the other. And the more you overcome, that's where the confidence comes from.
Yeah. And two, as you're talking, I'm thinking our biggest hindrance can be the hypothetical.
Yeah.
We can paint pictures of hypotheticals that never will happen, but they automatically trigger fear and then keep us from walking that plan out or executing it like you're talking about. We can think about so many what ifs that we just paralyze ourselves, and that purpose is just halted immediately and stopped in its tracks. And when you're talking about that, executing a plan, no matter what gets in your way, you're going to have somebody or something try to hinder that. But man, I would say to people right now that are listening, because I'm as guilty as anybody, man, we can really talk ourselves out of something if we get locked into thinking of what's hypothetically out there.
Absolutely.
There's a
fear of the unknown.
I mean, if you don't know what you don't know, but you also, by what you don't know, can really disqualify yourself. So I'd say you go based on that plan, like you said, on what you can see right there and handle the task in front of you.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess it's like old as time, like people didn't sail a certain distance because you could fall off the earth. Like, that was just, someone just made that up one. I'm not saying they made it up, but they got it from somewhere, and no one ever, no one ever tested it. It was the ideal of what could be over that edge. And like you said, it hinders you from, obviously, we're here, got great countries and different people on the other side, but, all these things hindered you. You were stopping at this edge, but someone else created that edge for you. Someone else defined your box. And
that's it.
So the only way to actually move past or succeed or get over that hump, or you really have to literally think outside that box. You have to go just one step further than what you're comfortable doing.
That's awesome. That's a great way to put it too. Say that again. Like, I know you won't be able to repeat it exactly, but like, Something of the box. Say that again. Defined your box. Like,
so you can't let someone else define your box. You know, the only way for you to succeed is to take a step outside of it.
that's good, man. That somebody else defining us and what our potential could be. Like, I think that's a major factor. And I think the listeners would probably sit there and be nodding their heads because somebody's dealing with something along those lines. Like, somebody's box is being defined by somebody else or something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it could even be a fear factor that's defining your box. So great insight to step out of that. As we kind of progress, you know, the ABCs, the next just kind of standard progression would be the C of clearing the debris is what I call it. So there's a lot of clutter out there, and it can take different forms. It can be social media. It can be other voices that are lies versus truth. Like, we got to know what to believe, right? We got to know, we got to be able to deflect, like we talked about earlier, some of that external stuff that may be coming in trying to attack our psyche, our drive. So, you know, we're both, you know, this is a faith-based platform, and we're unapologetic about that. And you and I are like-minded in that. So talk to me how your faith kind of aligns you with the ability to kind of clear some of that debris that may not be from a faith-based standpoint.
Man, faith is simply my mom, my grandma, my family, you know, keeping me in church, and just kind of constantly keeping it in my head, whether I was going to church physically or just kind of, I don't know, if I had a rough week and I don't know, rough week at school and I didn't know what was going on with the game, you know, my mom would just look at me and she'd be like, you know, you are the head, not the tail, you know what I mean? Or she would tell me, you speak life and death with power of the tongue, and, you know, things like that, that really, you know, something's going to stick with you when you're young, regardless of what it is, whether, you know, it's just like that one thing that, like, I always remembered and, like, I just believed and bought in. And the one basically that you know, speak power of the tongue, life and death and power of the tongue, and you're the head and you're not the tail. You know, those are two things that kind of stick with me, because it basically tells me that, you know, God promised that I was worthy from the start, you know. So technically I don't really need anybody else's improvement after that. You know, I don't really care if you're not, you know, I don't care. Honestly, this just is what it is. I truly don't care from that point, because, like, I know what I have backing me. So that affirms everything. And now the rest of that, you can kind of take it, you know, for everyone else, you know, so kind of, you can take it out you want from that point. I'm unapologetically myself. With my athletes, I always push authenticity. Be you, you know, don't allow outside forces to change anything about yourself. Either live or die by the sword, you know, be yourself. Don't allow anything to change it. Because if you change and fail because you were being something that someone else wanted you to be, then you have no choice but to be disappointed in yourself. But if you go out and give 100% as you are, the best way that you thought possible to do it, then there's no way you could fail, because now you've learned and you can grow from the process. I mean, that's kind of like one of my big things as far as my faith goes, just kind of believing that no matter what, you know, through all my trials, tribulations, hard times, you know, there's always an upside, because, you know, God got my back and he would never put more on me than I can handle. So I could continue to make this walk daily. I usually pray before I lift. Just one of those things that I got in the habit of doing, just like a quick prayer, heighten me up a little bit, talk to the big man. And I always say, you know, God, give me the strength to lift. I mean, give me the strength to handle what I'm doing, and I'm gonna smash these weights today. And that's what I say right before amen. And I mean that in all aspects of life. God, if you just give me the strength, I'm going to smash the day. You know, if you give me 24 hours, I swear I'll conquer. So just, you know, just kind of believe in yourself, really, at the end of the day. And God told me that I could believe in me because he does. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so, I mean, that's in a nutshell. Like, if we kind of, I always say that keep the main thing. And you already said, like, God already clarified this. Like, he already explained it.
Yeah.
He already said what we were. So no one else really trumps that. Like, nothing else we can hear. I always say, you know, the creator versus the creation. Like, the creator is God, and the creation is us. So are we really going to take the word of the creation over the creator? We shouldn't.
Who's bigger?
Yeah. So like, I'm going to listen to somebody that knows, somebody that made me, somebody that wrote the manual. Like, so you hit the nail on the head, man. God already said it about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's believe that. Let's say it about ourselves. And the power of the tongue is huge. The words we say, words either give life or death. And, you know, we do it to ourselves. It's not just about what other people say about us. Mm-hmm. We say it about ourselves.
It's what you believe about you.
Absolutely. And as a man believes in his heart, so is he, is what the Bible talks about. And so, man, I think that's huge. Like you seem to get it, that it's already been done. It's already been said about you.
Yeah.
So even what I say about me, if it's negative, if it doesn't line up with that, trash it. So
can't do nothing with it.
By the way, I'm gonna steal that. I don't pray before I work out. That's weird. It's in the morning, and I've already done my devotional. So I go to the gym, which is my garage, and I mean, I think that's huge. You invite God in everything you do, and that's a huge picture of keeping Him center of everything, even the little stuff. So, I mean, you kind of already talk about what truth are you standing on. That's the question I have for you, is what truth are you standing on about yourself? I would even say, what truth are you standing on about your business and your new, you know, this is kind of a new thing still. And I want you to talk about your recent events that you had to overcome, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I got you. So with the business, me and my partner, we stand on simply grind hard for what you want. And that's just, that's making sure that your work equals out the results. And we say all the time, it results over excuses, you know? And I think that applies in so many different aspects of life, just because the harder you work and the more energy you put towards something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to grow and flourish, but it does mean that the energy and the effort that you and the way that you feel and the attitude you have towards it is going to be a lot different. You're gonna take it seriously. Like I said, the more you overcome, the more confident you become. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we just say grind hard. It's the next step away. That's what we mean. And the grind is basically taking every step, every single day, giving it all you have, whether you have 100% full or zero in the tank. Just continue to grind, continue to go hard every single day. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that 100% effort puts you closer to your goal. It puts you 1 step, 2 steps closer to your goal. So just that daily grind, that's the one thing that I really stand on every single day. At some point on my mirror, I just write little quotes on my mirror, and it says, if you want to look good in front of thousands, you have to outwork thousands in front of nobody. And I just, that's one of my main things. You know, I want to be one of those people who I want my daughters to catch me in the act of excellency. You know what I mean? I want them to see me like, Daddy's putting in this extra work. He's up late. He's going to bed. You know, he's up before us. He goes to sleep after us. He's in his computer. He's texting his clients. He's going to work every day. Then he trains himself. And then he comes and he wants to see us train. Like, I want them to see that. And I want that to be one of those things that they pick up. So just off the sake of being, of just trying to continue to be their hero. You know, I try to continue to take steps towards that grind every single day.
Wow. So I touched on this in that statement before what you said is awesome. I hope people get that grind. And I love what you said about outwork thousands in front of nobody. Like, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where we grow. That's where we get better, is doing it for not for the crowd or the status. But so people that don't know your story, you are a picture of what overcoming something looks like. And you had a little bit of adversity most recently. So tell a little bit about that, because we're talking about clearing debris, right? We're talking about clearing the road of unnecessary debris and obstacles that might prevent us from walking in our purpose. So you had a little bit of that come up, like you had to take a little detour. Talk to the listeners about this.
So I'm at 15 weeks on recovery right now. Of course, it's 2020, so anything goes this year, apparently. About 4 months ago, I was just at a routine flag football tournament. We were playing in Cowboy Stadium, so pretty big tournament. Kind of had a first mind. I was like, I kind of don't want to go. I'm kind of tired this weekend, but you know what? I already committed to it, so I'm going to go. It's going to be fun. I always have a good time with my teammates, and show up at the tournament, have a great day. playing ball. And then I think like the last game. I know it was the last game. We're closing up. One random play, I run off. I go ready to jump, and my patella tendon in my right leg completely ruptures. I'm in the air, I come down, I land on my left leg, and then the strangest thing, it pops right after. So I got a little bang bang play. I tear both my patella tendons. It's crazy because we're at the height of business. The summer is one of our busiest times. Even with everything that's going on, we got a lot of business booming, a lot of things going on at the gym, a lot of deadlines to meet, a lot of appointments and stuff that we have scheduled for the month of July. And I tore both my patella tendons, so I'm gonna be out for a little bit. So that's just one of those things, that's at this point, I'm back on my feet. I'm walking. This whole recovery, I've always been two weeks ahead, at least. Being able to walk without my crutches 2 weeks before the doctor told me I'd be able to, and then kind of catching balance and having a little bit more range of motion than the doctors were expecting in the first month to month and a half. And then I started to regain strength a little quicker. And just the way that I looked at it was that, I know a lot of people as a trainer, you meet a lot of injured people. You meet people, coming off of knee surgery, back surgery, shoulder surgery, all kinds of surgeries and injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of had in my mind, because this is my first time ever having this type of surgery, or because I've never torn a ligament or anything like that before. So, at 29, to my first time at the height of my business, it's one of those things that, like, the whole process, all I was thinking is that people get depressed during these times. People get depressed, they get hard on themselves, they gain unwanted weight, and all these different factors were just running through my head from the moment I felt my legs pop and I was like laying on the ground looking up. It was like, all right, this process is starting right now.
Wow.
As soon as I got on the phone, when they called 911, I explained to the paramedics, hey, got ready. I told them the situation. I got ready to jump. I'm pretty sure, I've torn both my patella tendons. And like, from the time I spoke it out of my mouth to where that's when I accepted it, literally within that second. So it's like, I tore both patella tendons. That's a 9-month recovery. Let me get my mind right day one in the hospital. I'm not going to go in here sad and frowning. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just attack it every day, one day at a time, keep my mind occupied, staying busy. And from day one to week 16 now, I mean, that's been my method. That's been exactly how I've attacked every single day of this. And only because I've seen so many people go through dark times while they were injured. And my goal, just because of where my business is and where my family is and all the things, people that depend on me, it was like, I can't allow myself to fall into that trap, that victim mentality, that, that woe is me mentality, because that mentality, whether you're healthy or injured, is still, toxic to your body and to your mind. And so I just kind of took every day. As soon as I was able to stretch, reach down, touch my toes, I did that. I was in a immobility brace for 8 weeks. So that means I couldn't bend my legs at all for a solid 8 weeks. So as soon as I was able to stretch again and kind of start moving, I did that. My first day in surgery, they gave me a walker. Obviously, I have 2 torn patella tendons that were just repaired. So I got a walker, those hospital hallways. So they walked me down on the walker. And when I got down to the other end, I mean, I was like, the walker does hurt, but it's a lot easier than I expected, because my upper body was able, I work out every day. So my lifestyle makes it a little bit easier for me to rely on my upper body as I walk through the hallway. So by the time we got to the end of the hallway, I requested my crutches because I needed a little bit more. If I'm going to do this, I need to push myself a little bit every day. I mean, don't overdo it, but I do have to have some type of pain in order for me to, that's that box. The doctors gave me their own little box of they're doctors, they're going off statistics and different people who've went through my injury. But at the same time, I also felt like kind of disrespected, because it's like, nah, like that's them. I need you to take it one day at a time with me, because I'm going to outdo them. And that's I just attacked it like an athlete. I'm going to be above what everyone else has done at this. I'm going to knock this out of the park, is how I looked at it the entire time. And I think just keeping that mindset and doing the little things every single day, it kind of got me through, because now I'm back up. I'm back at work a little bit, and, I'm feeling good.
Well, I want to put some context around this injury, because for those listening, like, we're talking about a guy who, from the time he's in diapers, is playing like every sport and running around, and at one point, one of the fastest guys in the state of Texas. So let's put context around what this could have done to him psychologically when this happens. What was the biggest lie you had to overcome in that process?
Don't overdo it, I think may have been the one that I heard the most. And I wouldn't say that it's a lie because it's very, very valuable information.
Right.
But this being, I guess people don't really look at it that I'm a trainer. So like people kind of look at it like, hey, I know you Des, you got a lot of energy. You focus really hard on one task at a time. And I don't want you to like push it to where you injure yourself. And, you know, and it was concern, which I truly appreciate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do this, you know, like I do this every day. This is what I do. I help people overcome this every single day. So it would kind of, you know what I mean? It would kind of be crazy if I didn't practice what I preached in the situation. So that was the biggest thing, not overdoing it. And it's not to the point where I would, you know, push myself to where like I can't stand because my knees are throbbing. No, I would get proper blood flow. You know, I scientifically attacked it at some point. And the thought of overdoing it really would have had me sitting down longer. So it was where I was 2 weeks ahead. If I would have continued on that process of not overdoing it, I think I would be a week behind or on that schedule or show up at the doctor and he's like, okay, everything's looking good. I want to see a little bit more improvement here. We're going to keep you in for a couple more weeks. And that was my fear. That was the biggest fear that I had during the whole process. So I think not overdoing it was one of those things that people were defining the box for me and not taking it, you know, taking me into consideration as I move forward in my process. So I'm kind of glad I went with my first mind and pushed myself a little more.
I would imagine that the enemy that we all know that's out there likes to whisper defeat. He likes to whisper death. He likes to whisper hopelessness and despair. So I'm sure there were thoughts of, oh man, my business is going to go under, or I may never make it back fully from this, or this and that, like in those moments. But you were already kind of defending yourself spiritually because you've seen what people have gone through. So that's a good thing. Like a lot of people don't have the luxury of knowing what to expect. So I think what the takeaway is from that lesson from you is people listening need to say, look, when I have this adversity, these are the triggers that could happen. Like these are some of the things I need to put up the line of defense about. And I need to be like, okay, no on depression, no on defeat. Like there's no finality of defeat here or death. Like I'm not going to lose this battle. Like I think people need to understand that that's not an option because of what you said earlier. God already said you're more than a conqueror, right? So you sort of had a head start on that process because of what you've seen other people do. But I think it's key that you said, you know, you heard a lot of things and people were defining that box for you. So
and for me, it was just, I don't know, I guess the patella is one of the strongest ligaments in our body. So it was so rare to tear one, let alone two. So like I've been like the freak of doctor's offices. So anytime I go, like, you know, multiple doctors come in and ask my story, see the video, and like, wow, like I've never actually seen this before. So for me, it was just like, oh, it's just knee surgery, you know, like just having knee surgery like everybody else, like millions of people do every single day playing sports. So I figured, you know, I have like my godmother, you know, she's battling breast cancer right now. And it's like, compared to like my issue, like I felt, you know, I compared the two. That's how I looked at it. It's like, well, knee surgery, or I could be, you know, battling breast cancer right now. And honestly, knee surgery is kind of fine. I'll eventually walk and run and, you know, all these different things like over time, you know, but, you know, I see her every single day, you know, smiling, being positive, never really getting down. She says she says the problems and the illness, you know, just to let you know what she's going through, but that's what we want. You know, let me know what you're going through. Let me share that with you type of deal. And, you know, you see and you hear that and you're like, man, my situation really isn't that bad. And I guess that kind of comes back to like, you know, it could always be worse type of deal. And that's how I seen it. And it was like, man, if she can have that much strength going through what she's going through, I know for a fact I can overcome double knee surgery in less time than any doctor has told me that I can, especially considering the amount of pain that I felt before, considering the amount of pain I felt after surgery. After my first like 3 days of surgery, like the knee pain I felt prior to that was worse. So it was like, well, I'm healed, you know, like from the moment, like I didn't feel that same restriction that I was feeling before. It was like, oh, well, I'm healed now. So now all I got to do is wait for my body to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
saying? Throwing the right foods in there, antioxidants, keeping my green foods, lean meats, right? Taking the
Mm-hmm.
trainer knowledge at that point
Mm-hmm.
and helping my body. So I knew that I would eventually, be above wherever I was. I feel like I'm going to be better than I was when I left, honestly.
That's
I had a
awesome.
doctor tell me in the hospital, he was like, he's like, yeah, I don't know about speed or anything. I don't know if you'll be as fast again, but, you'll be fine. You'll be able to walk. Like, that definitely, I'm still thinking about that to be like, I can't wait to March so I can record a video and shoot it to him.
That's great.
Just to be like March 19, March 2020, two different athletes.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, no, that's
still
good.
waiting on those times now.
That's good, man. It's been a perfect conversation because we've had the full cycle of how to get out of our way. Like, you've lived that example. Like, we're our own worst enemy sometimes. You had the perfect opportunity to believe some of those lies and to really have some of those distractions impact your journey in a negative way. You had an opportunity to really get in your way and play some mental mind games with yourself and disqualify yourself. So, as we close this, I want to, my message to the audience is, look, the ABCs of getting out of your way, because we all have a purpose, we all have a destiny, and sometimes we limit ourselves. So the approach is huge. We talked about deflecting some of the external, the barriers. We talked about, some of the fear, pride, insecurities that are out there. This is a living example of what fear could potentially do and how to overcome that. And he was right on point with drive versus dread. I thought he mentioned that. He articulated that awesome. And drive is more your strengths, dread is more your weakness. But, embrace some of those weaknesses and work on them and really acknowledge them to move forward for growth. And then, clearing the debris, like you said, some of those things that are out there that we got to get out of the way, some of the clutter, we got to really be intentional about getting out of our own way. So, absolutely. Man, Des, I thank you for your perspective, because it's been huge for people, because there's somebody out there that either has gone through something similar or even maybe not a physical adversity. Maybe they're in the middle of a trial right now that they're struggling with, and they're lying to themselves. They're believing some of those external factors. I encourage them, listen to what Des has to say, listen to what God has to say and has already said about you, and claim those promises, claim that truth about yourself, because really, we are our own worst enemy sometimes. So, Des, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it, man. I always enjoy conversation with you. And guys, girls, go get it. Go, as Chip Baker says, go get it. Don't limit yourself, and really see what God can do in your life. Till next time, be blessed. Be blessed.